Good morning. Welcome. Wow. There's a lot of sound in this room, isn't there?
It is. Very powerful.
I'm Bill Covino. I'm the president of Cal State LA. Thank you. Thank you. I don't always get applause for that line. We want to really express our deep appreciation for all of you being here to join our great university in this great city for this great event and to start an important discussion of a national economic agenda for women and families. I can't think of a better place than Cal State LA to have this dialogue. Okay. Nearly 60% of our student population are women working hard to earn degrees and transform their lives. 60% of this year's entering students are the first in their families to go to college. We're very proud of them. So with these students in mind, we really pride ourselves here on being an institution dedicated to the public good, to access, to success, to service that reaches throughout and beyond greater Los Angeles. And I should also note that we have graduated a significant number of future members of Congress. So our distinction and our dedication to success and perseverance is really matched only by the great women leaders that we have with us today. House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman Judy Chu, former Labor Secretary and current Cal Poly Pomona Scholar in Residence, Hilda Solis, State Senator Holly Mitchell, and it's my distinct honor to introduce Congresswoman Chu. There are few members of Congress, really, who have been better friends to this university than Judy Chu. And it's important to note that she is one of us, someone who comes out of the world of higher education. Before joining Congress, she had a 20-plus year career as an educator at East LA College and Los Angeles City College. There's some fans out there, I hear it. Like so many in our Cal State LA community, Congresswoman Chu is a first, blazing a trail as the first Chinese American woman elected to Congress. She has been one of the most steadfast supporters of Cal State LA and the critical need for higher education funding. I'm delighted to have the Congresswoman here today, less than 1 week after she fought to expand the number of women-owned small businesses who are awarded federal contract work. I know that is an issue near and dear to her. I'm sure we will hear more about it today, and don't want to delay any further our welcome to our great friend and esteemed representative, Congresswoman Judy Chu.
Thank you, President Covino, for that introduction and for welcoming us here today at Cal State Los Angeles. I am so thrilled to see so many people here today for this very special event. Last year, Leader Nancy Pelosi put forth an idea. She challenged us, the Congress members, to do something about an issue that has kept women in second-class citizenship for far too long. She proposed a campaign for a women's economic agenda. It was to address the injustices of today, that in today's modern era, we could still have a situation where women still earn just 77 cents for every dollar that men earn. That women make up nearly 2/3 of all minimum wage workers at a time when the minimum wage is at a historic low. that without affordable childcare, many times women have to choose between a paycheck and making sure that their children are properly cared for. And that without paid leave, women just have to lose out on badly needed funds in order to care for a sick child or go through pregnancy. If we could tackle these issues, if we could improve the economic situation for 50% of Americans, we could improve the economy of this whole country. In other words, if women succeed, America succeeds.
That's right.
And that's what the Women's Economic Agenda is all about. Since it was kicked off last summer under Nancy Pelosi's inspirational leadership, it's taken off like wildfire. Congress members have hosted events like this throughout the country, and women and men have responded with overwhelming enthusiasm and gratitude that we are addressing these issues. In fact, did you know that when President Obama raised this in the State of the Union address, saying those words, "When women succeeds, America succeeds," the response polls went off the charts? And so that's why I just had to bring this event to Los Angeles. Los Angeles has such an active women's community and such committed activists. And I knew that all of you would want to be part of this very, very historic movement. And in fact, economic insecurity is caused by outdated policies, policies that we can change. A single mother making the federal minimum wage of $7.25 brings home a little over $15,000 a year. This is nearly $5,000 below the federal poverty line for a family of 3. In Congress, my colleagues and I have been fighting to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. Should this happen, that same mother would be able to bring home almost $6,000 more a year. And what a difference that would make. Mm-hmm. And on paid leave, as the women in this room know, while we are good at juggling schedules with family, with kids, with the stresses of modern life, and we do it pretty well, if I can say so myself. But there's still so much more we can do to support women trying to balance a career and a life at home. It is time for the U.S. to join the 145 other countries who offer workers paid sick days. How? Yes. How can we be one of only 4 countries that don't offer paid leave to new mothers? And finally, we can't ignore the challenges with childcare today. Nearly two-thirds of women in the workforce today have preschool-aged children. The average cost of childcare for just one ranges from $4,000 to $12,000. For that same single mother bringing home about $15,000 a year in a minimum wage job, that is simply out of reach. And so that's why we must strengthen Head Start and other child care assistance programs. And that's why we are here today. I am joined by 5 remarkable women who will discuss how to improve the lives of working women in America. We're so honored to have Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, who traveled such a long way to join us today. It's truly special to have her here. We're so privileged to have such prominent leaders, former Secretary of Labor Hilda Solis and State Senator Holly Mitchell. And we will hear from Ronetta Jackson and Magali Sanchez Hall, who faced the challenges that I just talked about and who will tell their stories. Now, let me tell you, it takes courage to talk about your life to a crowd. And we are so fortunate they're doing that. Let me also say that in this event, we wanted to do something special, provide job resources for women right away. So we have a job resources fair right outside the door, waiting for you right after this event, with workforce investment boards, small business programs, and other important agencies represented. Now I will turn the program over to a phenomenal moderator in Dr. Gay Yuen, who is an outstanding professor of language and literacy right here at Cal State LA and a great community leader. So let me pass the floor to Gay and let's get started.
The amazing Congresswoman Judy Chu. I too would like to add my welcome this morning in addition to President Covino's. And I am so delighted. Yes, let's give him another hand. And it's my honor today to be introducing each of these amazing women who will be speaking on our panel. The first speaker really needs no introduction. And I've had the privilege of working with Hilda Solis when my son was in middle school in the San Gabriel Valley. And she almost single-handedly helped us improve the conditions of the high school there. The kids couldn't go to the bathroom because it was so filthy. And how can you learn when your environment is not conducive? But Hilda came in and spoke with the parents and helped us improve that school. And that school now is one of the highest API scores in the state. So thank you, Hilda, for that. A former 4-term Congresswoman before she was elected Labor Secretary in 2009, Secretary Solis has vast experience fighting for the rights of women, workers, and the environment. She was the first Latina to serve in the United States cabinet. Hilda, that deserves a big hand. Hilda Solis has done extensive work improving the lives of working families and protecting the environment. She was the author of the Green Jobs Act, which provided funding for green-collar jobs, training for all of the working community. Please, a big hand for Hilda Solis.
Thank you. Buenos dias. And it is a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank our very gracious moderator here, Dr. Gay Yen. We've done a lot of work together, and Judy and I, and it's wonderful to see our leader, Pelosi, who I still call Speaker Pelosi. Because I remember casting that vote and how critical it was, because indeed you have the caliber of women up here that are really mean what they say, and that is to help promote the status of women in every single way, whether you are a homemaker or whether you are a young student coming back into, say, a working relationship outside, wanting to enhance your careers, or just someone who wants to determine what she wants to do in her life. These women here are the ones that empower us to do that. And I can't tell you what a privilege it is to be here at Cal State LA. Thank you so much, Dr. Covina. It has been wonderful to come back home, to be a part of the academic setting now. I'm teaching at my old alma mater, Cal Poly Pomona, and it's wonderful to hear what the students have to say and that they have so much hope and inspiration. And that's why I'm glad to be here also with my good friend, Congresswoman Judy Chu, who's been an outstanding leader, a uniter, one that knows the strength of diversity and how important it is to speak to everybody and to have their voices heard. She deserves a big round of applause for putting this together. But I think we're here because of one reason also, because we know women can get the job done. And it's true, when women succeed, the entire country, if not the planet, succeeds. And we are also celebrating this month Women's History Month. Let us not forget that. But we shouldn't just take 1 month out of the academic year or the year. It should be a celebration every single day, every single second. And I'm glad that the Congress and members of the Senate as well are taking on this slogan to make sure that we keep this commitment to women and their families. Because it isn't just about women, it's about empowering our families. And that's what's so important. And I am very happy and delighted that I had the opportunity to serve on a cabinet with a president that knew very well what he needed to do to help empower women. One of the first acts that he did was to sign the Lilly Ledbetter Act. And that was something enormous. And that centered around fair pay. And as you've already heard, women continue to only make 77 cents on the dollar. And it's even more dreadful when you talk about different groups. So when you talk about Latinas, for example, compared to an Anglo or white male, Latinas only make $23,806 a year. I mean, that is what they make potentially. For African American women, it's about $18,514. So you can see that we have problems. Latinas earn about 55 cents on the dollar, and African American women 64 cents on the dollar. Tell me that that isn't a problem for our families. It is a big problem for our families. And we know that women make up about 40% of the workforce. But again, they stagnate. And when women lose out in pay, even when they leave institutions like this and get their degree, they're about 20 to 15% behind in their earning capacity because they're not promoted as easily, they're not moving up. They make choices too, though. They raise families. So once they are out of that setting where they're working, they're not able to produce more to enter in those funds that go into Social Security and their retirement. So that also affects their earning capacity. But if you multiply that over time, say maybe 20 or 30 years or her lifetime, she's actually going to be losing anywhere close to over $350,000 of earning power. And I can tell you, as a former labor secretary, talking to audiences about this, when you speak to their spouses or men or grandfathers, they say, why would I want to support policies that are going to hurt my family? My daughter, my wife, my nieces, my children. And so we have to ask that question to everyone. And I think that the discussion starting in Washington is great, but it's really going to happen on the ground here in our communities by making sure that we raise the minimum wage. I know that some people are not fully aware of what that means, but we have not been able to close that gap with the minimum wage. And this whole new effort around the country that's taking fire, you can see that people in communities, their own cities, are taking advantage and pushing even far beyond the 10 and 10. $10.10. Some cities are going beyond that, and that's great. But let's continue to push that on. Let's continue with those initiatives that are ongoing now. And I can tell you from someone who actually was involved in helping to raise the minimum wage back in '96. This was a long time ago. But even at that point, there were a lot of naysayers that said that we could not get enough support, that it would actually hurt the very people that we wanted to help, that it would hurt adult women, it would hurt our young people. Well, guess what? We had to go to the initiative process because at that time, that governor vetoed that bill 3 times. And what happened was we went on the initiative process. We got about 63% of the vote. And Republicans and Democrats voted for it. Men and women voted for it. So it is a popular issue and one that we need to push out. And I know that we're going to have a lot of work to do there. But one of the last things I want to say that's very important is that we need to continue expansion of the Family Medical Leave Act. We need to have enforcement of that. And women need to know that there are tools available. And also for wage theft. We have a number of women that are working in industries, in the service industry, in the farming area, and also in nail and hair salons. A lot of immigrant women that work in these places that aren't even given the opportunity to receive minimum wage or overtime or sick leave. So we need to have enforcement of the current rules on the book. I'm not saying we have to create new rules. We need to have the tools to enforce them. And I'm glad that we have people here today that can help clarify that. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for having me here. And the fight goes on. The movement goes on to help women achieve their status and appropriate role in our society and in our every single day lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretary Solis. When members of the Planning Committee from Congresswoman Chu's office and Leader Pelosi's office, we were talking about what amazing leaders to introduce at this panel. We said we need to remember to include members of women leaders from all sectors of our community. And so therefore we said we want to invite those with stories to tell, stories that let us know exactly what the message is when we're talking about this initiative. So our next speaker is Ms. Ronetta Jackson. She is an in-home support service worker for LA County and a single mother who worked and raised her daughter on her own. Her daughter is now in college and on a pathway for success. Ms. Jackson takes care of her father, who had fallen ill a few years ago, and she is the example of the strong and courageous spirit that is needed when women meet the challenges of society. And she also works to see more justice in the community. Ms. Ronetta Jackson.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thanking Congressman Chu and her staff for actually inviting me, and I'm actually feeling very privileged to be around such strong women here. So thank you very much for having me. But actually, I am a home care worker for the In-Home Supportive Care Services, which is a program funded by our federal, state, and county dollars. And this program, it provides care for our aging, our disabled, and our blind, of course. I'm also part of SEIU, United Long-Term Care Workers. IHSS workers are a majority of women, and they get paid less than $10 an hour in the Los Angeles County. Now, of course, 20 years ago, our home care workers had to fight to get on to the minimum wage before the law did not apply to them at all. Now, I do know of 2 other home care workers personally that work 24/7. One has a father that has dementia. The other one has a daughter that has extreme autism. And that's definitely a 40-plus hour, a week job. Definitely not easy, all right? And because of the severity of the disability, I'm sure they don't want anyone else taking care of their loved ones but themselves. Now, both of these workers, as I mentioned before, they definitely log over 40 hours a week. And that's definitely something that we definitely need to stand, behind and make sure that they continue to get their 40 hours a week. Now that the president has declared home care workers eligible for overtime as of this year, our hours may get capped by the governor's budget, which is actually indeed horrible and will affect the people that we take care of as well as the workers. At the end of the day, you can't balance a budget on the backs of low-waged workers. Now, of course, as for me, I am a single mother, and I definitely raised my daughter on my own. Just to give you just some brief background, I did work for a major corporation. I was laid off, and I definitely found out how much minimum wage was when I was laid off, because I took what I could get, just to provide for my daughter, to make sure that she was successful in her endeavors, going on to college. I did it. I'm still standing. I'm here. My daughter's at UC Davis. And it definitely wasn't easy, but I definitely pushed forward. And we do ask that, our voices combined with your voices will definitely make one big voice. So we do ask that you do stand with us and make that change for the community, for our state, and for our nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. When I was in the green room meeting each of the panelists to make sure that I touch on what's important for them, for you to know about them, I spoke with California State Senator Holly Mitchell, and she looked at me and she says, "Don't forget to say I'm a mother of a middle school student." And that was what was important for her. And isn't it so true? So many of us, whether we're working or whether we're in corporate office or high leadership jobs, when we're asked to define ourselves, I'm a mother first. And so this is the mother of a middle school child, State Assembly member. Mitchell's understands the concerns of working families and seeks to improve the quality and accessibility of the state's health and education system. Serving as the chair of California's Legislative Black Caucus, Senator Mitchell has a strong commitment to community needs and family-focused policy making. State Senator Holly Mitchell.
I offered that really as an excuse, so in case my cell phone started ringing or if you saw me just break and run, you would know that either he was locked out of the house again or he missed the school bus or the dog got out. So really that's my cover. So if you see the glazed look of a mother come over my face, you understand something happened at home. Good morning. It is wonderful to be here, and I want to thank you for the gracious invitation to participate in an amazing, amazing panel. And I think it's important that we as women leaders tell our real life stories too, because we are ordinary women that took our ordinary life experience to the policy-making halls of our nation to bring your life experience to that process, because that's the lens we bring to our work every day. And so thank you again for the opportunity. When women succeed, America succeeds. And I'm here to suggest that when California women succeed, the California economy flourishes. And when California women succeed, California's children will thrive. And that's the nexus that we must always help our neighbors, friends, voters, and our fellow policymakers fundamentally understand. I will talk about two things that we're focusing on at the state level that completely coincide with the push of Leader Pelosi: child care and child poverty. Child care is a critical pillar when talking about women succeeding. I've spent much of my own professional career as the leader of the largest subsidized child care agency in the state, Crystal Stairs, before coming to the legislature. Back then, I worked to help legislators understand the return on investment that invested in child care has in our communities and local economies. According to the California Budget Project, since 2008, policymakers have cut at the state level total annual funding for subsidized child care and preschool by nearly 40%, which resulted in the elimination of nearly 1/4, or over 110,000 child care slots, child care and preschool across the state. Now remember, when California's economy flourishes, California's children thrive. So what are we going to do about it? This year, the budget is in the black. The governor has talked about the importance of saving for a rainy day fund and spending down our debt. I have a reputation of telling him every time I have the opportunity to see him, Leader Pelosi, that I don't know about in his community, but it's been raining in my community for a long time. And so as a result, we feel firmly that now is the time for California to reinvest strategically in California's future, in California's children. So the California Legislative Women's Caucus will be taking child care very seriously and holding him accountable. We want to invest strategically in areas that are critically important for child development, because child care keeps California working. the child care industry, and also as working mothers, we know without a sound, reliable, high-quality child care system, we cannot go to work and be productive employees. And so the Women's Caucus will be looking at various aspects and looking at both the short-term and long-term strategy to reinvest in California's child care system. We want to look at the child care industry, largely run by women, to make sure that the earnings those women make is close to a livable wage. We want to look at expanding the child care slots for those most in need, again, to help women go to work and make sure that kids enter kindergarten ready and able to learn. Lastly, I'll talk a little bit about child poverty. I know many of you here in this room understand that California is now leading the nation in our rate of child poverty. 1 in 4 California women are living at or below the federal poverty level, and 1 in 6 California children are living in poverty or something called deep poverty. So a number of my colleagues in the legislature have also introduced legislation to raise the minimum wage at the state level. We're looking at creating a state earned income tax credit to help low-income workers. And my legislative priority again this year is to eliminate something called the maximum family grant. A number of years ago, CalWORKs recipients were capped if they had a baby while on CalWORKs. We can draw a direct correlation to when California's child poverty rate began to increase when that policy was instituted. Congresswoman Chu, Leader Pelosi, 15 red states across the country have reversed their maximum family grant policy. It's time that California join them and stop penalizing poor children. In closing, I'll just say I'm very proud. I've just joined the Senate this past fall and was granted the opportunity to lead a select committee that we came up with, a select committee on women and inequality. Because we want to talk about closing the income gap. We want to talk about what we need to do as a state to help raise women, help lift women and their children out of deep poverty. And we want to talk about the correlation between gender, race, and poverty. And so we'll be holding hearings in Sacramento across the state to talk about women and income inequality, and look forward to joining with the women in Congress to talk about helping America and California's women and children succeed. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, State Senator Mitchell. Also, in our little talk in the green room before coming in, we met Ms. Magali Sanchez-Hall. And she came, and this is one ball of energy, comes bouncing into the green room, and basically, guess what? Guess what? I have something to share with you. And she was so excited to share that she is currently in a master's program of public policy at the USC Luskin School of Public Affairs. And she is so proud and so excited about that because she is somebody who has a public policy interest emphasis in social welfare, socioeconomics, immigration, and the safety net. And we heard a lot about the safety net this morning. She is part of the California Partnership Junior Organizer for Equal Voice, which is a national movement to promote social economic justice. In that capacity, she works with recipients of federal and state-funded programs in order to collect data and find pressing points that inform elected officials in policymaking. And we are so glad you're there. So please welcome Ms. Magali Sanchez-Hall.
Thank you and good morning. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction. It was more than what I expected. Well, my name is Magali Sanchez-Hall. I'm a Latina woman, single parent, grandmother, single parent of 3, grandmother of 2. I'm also an immigrant that was brought to this country at the age of 10 by my wonderful mommy, who's here, my mother, mi mamá, who was also a single parent. So now you see where I get all my security from. Well, I have to tell you first about I am called a so-called success story in the state of California. And the reason why I'm called a success story is because as a single parent, survivor of domestic violence, immigrant who was undocumented and grew up here always fearing and wanting to live the extreme limitations of what any child will live under, to the point that I had to work at the age of 13 to help my mom financially. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry because she's here, okay? And I worked in a bridal shop 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. I actually had to iron for the chambelanes. When they were 15, I had to iron 15 shirts and make sure everything was there. I had to take measurements. I grew up too soon. And I grew up not only trying to take care of my mom, but I grew up trying to take care of everyone around me. I found myself moving from New York in 2006 because of domestic violence. I almost got killed. I run here, my mom bought me a ticket. With my family, I left everything I knew. I left my home, my car, my clothes, my friends, my dog. I left everything. I lived in a garage for almost a year where we couldn't even sleep, stretching our legs. We slept like sardines in a can. Right, Mommy? After that, to be able to get CalWorks and any type of federal or state-funded programs here in the state of California, you had to live here for 1 year. In that year, went by, and the first thing I did, the moment that I completed that year, I went to apply for food stamps, CalWorks, and everything possible way that I could get so I can go ahead and move on and lift my children up. I was able to get a wonderful social worker who said, you know what, you have options. You want to go ahead and go to school? I said, oh my God, I had a dream when I was a child. I wanted to be an astronomer. I got a scholarship from the University of Texas. I wanted to be an astronomer. My dream was broken because I was undocumented and I did not know. So I had to stop going to school. And I was actually thought that by society, that all I was good for is to be a mother and to have children and raise children at home, clean, and do everything a woman should do at home. And also by my father, by the way, who was not even around. Now, after I was given that opportunity, I went to a community college, not full-time, did not stop. I did not get childcare because it was a mess to get childcare. Until now, and we have to do something about that. And yes. And I applied and transferred to UCLA, which was my dream school when I was a little girl, and my dream came reality. Right now, I have a bachelor's degree and my major is Chicano Studies with 3 minors, Political Science, Public Policy, and Labor and Work Studies. I did not apply. I told Senator Holly Mitchell that I was gonna go into, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to protect the law. But guess what? God has a plan for us. And sometimes we want some things, but the door's closed. I was really upset, I was really angry, and then I got a phone call from the Laskin School of Public Affairs at UCLA, which is, by the way, number 8 in the world. We want you here. You have a lot to give, and we know that. You're special to us. I was like, really? What do they see in me that I don't, you know? And now I'm there. I'm actually there. My fellow classmates ask me, how do you do it? We can hardly even keep up on all the readings and all of that. I'm a woman. Thank you.
Let's give a big hand to our 4 panelists, each and every one of them amazing women. And with these women, America will succeed. I'd like to bring back Congresswoman Judy Chu, and she will do an introduction.
Wow, what a story, Magali. That is really something, and she is an example of why we have to do this campaign. Well, I have the pleasure of introducing a remarkable woman, a woman who has shattered glass ceilings and used her power to dramatically improve lives in this country, Leader Nancy Pelosi. Oh. I have to say more about you because she has such extraordinary accomplishments. After nearly 3 decades in Congress, in 2007, she did something historic. She became the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives. But the most significant aspect of her accomplishments is what she did with that position. She pushed the limits of the office, and in fact, under her leadership, the 111th Congress was heralded as one of the most productive Congresses in history. She passed health care reform in 2010. Now, millions of Americans have health insurance who did not have it before. Long-term health care costs will not drive people to bankruptcy. And for the first time, women are not charged higher premiums for insurance just for being women. She helped women by passing the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Lilly Ledbetter, who was working at Goodwill Tires when she discovered that she was paid at least $1,000 less than 15 men for doing the exact same job. Now, with this act, women can fight such pay discrimination. And she led the push for a vote on the DREAM Act, legalizing young people so that they can have a bright future. And now, after 20 years of stagnation in which families have been split apart due to our broken immigration system, she's relentless in ensuring that Congress finally passes comprehensive immigration reform. It was her leadership and vision that brought about this event and the economic agenda for women. No wonder she received this huge honor recently, her induction into the National Women's Hall of Fame at a ceremony in Seneca Falls, the very birthplace of the women's rights movement. So, you know what? Let's think. Harriet Tubman, Margaret Sanger, Susan B. Anthony, and now Nancy Pelosi. How about that? So let's welcome to the stage our champion, our inspiration, Leader Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you very much, Judy. Thank you all for your warm welcome. Thank you for your kind words, which I accept on behalf of all of the members of the House Democratic Caucus who made all of that legislation possible and all of the aspirations that we have in terms of immigration, healthcare, and the rest. It's an honor to be here with all of you. I look out there, I see moms, I see dads, I see leaders of community organizations who have been working on these issues for a long time, our friends in labor and the rest. We thank you for what you have been doing, and let's see how we can work together to make this happen. Thank you, President Covino, for your hospitality. Once again, I want to acknowledge your leadership here. We couldn't be at a more perfect place to have this discussion, especially in light of the figures you gave us about women in the university and first time in the family students. It's an honor to be here, of course, with Judy Chu. I'll talk more about her. Hilda Solis as well. Senator, I know that the senator has a middle school child. She also has a responsibility in Sacramento, so she told me at some point she may have to run to the plane to honor her responsibilities there. And aren't we proud of Senator Holly Mitchell and what she is doing in Sacramento? I thank Dr. Ewan for keeping us all together and moderating us and trying to keep us on time, but also, more importantly, for her leadership in the community. It's an honor to be with you, Dr. Ewan. But I know that all of the women gathered here and all of you know that our VIPs today are our special guests, Magali and Renetta. Their stories are what we are here about. Their successes give other women hope. Their accomplishments are something that I tell my male colleagues in the Congress, you could never do what these women have done. Is that right? You could never do it. It's absolutely remarkable. And it's so, again, here's the, you've heard what the challenges are. You hear the leadership of Senator Mitchell. You know what others have done. You know what you are doing. Now let's just make it get the result that we need. And I'm here to talk to you about solutions and how we are going to some people, this is inconceivable that we'll change all of this, and to us it is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So we have to shorten the distance between the inconceivable to some and the inevitable to us, because when women succeed, America succeeds. Let me first thank our former cabinet member, senator, well, she's served in so many capacities, senator, congresswoman, cabinet secretary, and now doing the most important work of all as a teacher. She is so remarkable. One thing that wasn't said about her is that when she was in the state legislature, Hilda Solis, and this will mean something more to people of my generation, although I don't see many of them in the audience here, but for those of you who are, she received the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award for her work on protecting the environment. What can you say? This young woman in the state legislature ranking up there with some of the giants of our country receiving that award. So proud of her. And as secretary, of course, all of these issues we're talking about, she was in the lead on, including, and I have to say, which is really an important part of this, a champion for collective bargaining, that people, that workers can speak in a strong, unified voice. That would help with all of what we are talking about. So thank you, Hilda Solis, for all of that. Judy Chu is remarkable. She came into Congress as a whirlwind, a force of nature. She came effective from the start, representing San Gabriel Valley, and she's devoted her entire career to empower women to realize their potential. From the days on the, and this is really important to what we're trying to do here. On her service on the Board of Equalization, she held seminars much like we're having here to help women start and run successful businesses. Because all that we're talking about, pay equity and raise the minimum wage and all the other factors, the pillars of our Women Succeed agenda include women's entrepreneurial opportunities. So women are not only employees, they employers, they are job creators, and Judy Chu brings that special piece to this debate. She also is one of the original, and there are only 5 sponsors of the comprehensive immigration reform bill that we have, H.R. 15. This was because of her knowledge of the subject, because of the respect she commands in the Congress. For this and so many other reasons, we thank all of you for sending her to Congress, and we thank you for bringing us together today, Judy. Now, I said this is going to be about solutions. We've had this conversation, all of us, among ourselves, in your organizations, in the Congress, in the legislature, in our homes, most importantly. You've heard personal stories. I'll tell you mine in a few sentences. A mother of 5, grandmother of 9. And when I was having my 5 children, by the way, when I brought my baby home my 5th child home from the hospital. My oldest child was turning 6 that week, 5 and 6 years. So, but I, of course, wanted the best for my children, and I wanted to take care of them myself and all of that. But what bothered me then and what drives my engine now is that seeing all that we could give our children, that 1 in 5 children in America lives in poverty, that is intolerable. That is intolerable. And we just have to do something to change it. And it's a decision. It's a decision. So we've tried legislatively this and that to improve the situation. But now we need to kick the door open and do something not incremental, but really transformative. Transformative. You talk to, and so that's, and people say, why do you keep doing this? I keep saying, because there's 1 in 5. That's what I wake up in the morning, that's what I pray for at night. It's what drives my engine. It just isn't right. And by the way, it's not good for our country, apart from what it means personally to those precious, precious children. So Congresswoman Chu mentioned that I received the award. I was so honored. So many of my colleagues, Judy was there when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. But just to put it in historical perspective, 165 years ago, and that's we did this on the anniversary in the summer of the 165th anniversary of Seneca Falls. These women came together. Imagine the courage, leaving home. They weren't even allowed to speak until they were spoken to. Leave home and declare that all men and women are created equal. And they launched this campaign to give women the right to vote. It took decades. It took decades. And when women got the right to vote, the headline said, "Women given the right to vote." I don't think so. Women fought, women marched, women starved, women were starved. Women were relentless. Women fought and women worked to get the right to vote for women in our country. A few decades later, women in the workplace, Rosie the Riveter, women helping the war effort. This was revolutionary, that women would be out of the home. Then higher education of women, women having a choice to do that or to work in a way that they felt comfortable or to stay home. Higher education of women and the rest, women in the professions. What's missing? Childcare. And all of that, what's missing? Childcare. So we have to get this done. And that's why when we put this together, for the first half of last year, we went around the country and listened and said, what are the things that would make the most difference to unleashing your fulfillment in the workplace or your ability to stay home? But what are the 3 things? So this doesn't cover every aspect of the concerns we have from when we passed the Violence Against Women Act, a major accomplishment. Judy's a leader in the fight in terms of women's reproductive health, as was Hilda when she was there. And so it continues to be, I'm sure, Senator Mitchell as well. So there are other issues. But right now we're talking about open the door, go to work. What are the 3 things? And what women told us is that respecting work, fair pay. I'm not going to go through it because I associate myself with Judy's remarks about the inequities in pay scale. And right now, at the end of March, by the end of March, women who make 77 cents on the dollar will have worked for free compared to their male counterpart with equal qualification, will have worked for free. And what does that mean to what they can do for their children? And the minimum wage, well, it's an immorality. It's so low, and it's just that has to change. And it's popular. American people support it overwhelmingly. We just can't get a vote in the House. So we have put what's called a discharge petition, more than you want to know about the process of Congress. But nonetheless, we are saying, give us a vote. Give us a vote. We're doing the same thing on immigration reform. We're doing the same thing on unemployment benefits. Just give us a vote. We know the votes are there. But on these 3 pillars that women gave us, pay fairness in terms of pay, work-home balance, that'd be the paid sick leave piece, very, very important across our country, and of course, the child care piece. I'll just tell you a couple stories, and I'm going to tell your stories when I go to other places, because we've had many, many, many sessions across the country. And on one, a young woman got up and told her story about how she struggled, this or that, single mom, the rest. And she said, but now I'm a bus driver. I have a job. I can pay the bills. I'm confident in that. But she said, I want to tell you what I see as a school bus driver. I pull up to the curb. I know what's going to happen. I see a mom crying. She's going to put a child on the bus she knows is sick. She has no other option. In a few blocks, the child may throw up, the child may sneeze, whatever it is, it's not healthy for that child or other children. But she has no options because she's working at a minimum wage job, which isn't a living wage. She can't take a day off. She does it too many times. First of all, she can't afford it. But if she does it too many times, pretty soon she doesn't have a job. The next thing is she cannot possibly, she has no sick days. Is that the greatest country that ever existed in the face of the earth? A mom doesn't have sick days to take care of her child or her mom when she comes out of the operating room. I mean, what is this? And she can't possibly afford child care. Sick child on the bus, over and over again across our country. We have answers. We're going to get that job done. And one of the ways is, of course, with affordable child care, affordable quality child care, respecting the workers, whether they're workers that you talked about, in-home care workers and the rest, and that's a really important part of our conversation across the country. And on the child care issue, I'll just tell you this one story. A young woman, mother of 5, immigrant mom, overcame so many challenges, and now she had a job and she was promoted to supervisor in her job. And so she came and talked to one of our, the previous one was in New Haven, Connecticut, Rosa DeLauro, who really is the author of all of this, Rosa, Congresswoman DeLauro. This woman was at Hunter College, and she came to speak to us. And she said, you know, I'm so confident. I have these children. I'm a mom. They're doing well. I have this job. It's just promoted. But I was really nervous about speaking to the group at Hunter College, a group such as this of leaders of different organizations and just plain moms, which is the biggest compliment, right? And so she said, I said to my children, I want to rehearse my speech in front of you. So will you sit there and I'll rehearse my speech? So she rehearsed her speech, and at the end, she said to her little girl 4 years old, in Head Start, raised her hand. Any questions, she said? Any comments? The little girl 4 years old raised her hand, who was in Head Start, and she said, yes, I just have one question, Mom. Who gave you permission to use my name in your speech? You go, girl. Just think, the confidence, the self-esteem that little girl was bringing. Right, Mom? Right, Mom? And that's the whole thing. As the senator said, children learning, parents earning. It's all connected. It's all connected. And a sense of community if someone is sick or needs to be home to address those challenges. We want to make sure we recognize that. We passed, it was the first bill that President Clinton signed, family and medical leave. 100 million times American families have availed themselves on it. But too many people don't have paid leave. They can't afford to do that, so paid leave. So what are we going to do? Here we are. Did I have my card here? You all have this card. What you can do to support When Women Succeed, America Succeeds. Share your personal story of challenges. Tweet why the women's economic agenda is important to you. Like Facebook, all of that. You have a card. I hope you will do that. Right now, this is being live streamed on our womensucceed.dems.gov. But we have to make a decision. You have all made the decision. You showed up here today. It's just to have, we're going to have bus trips, women on a roll to get this done. And we're just not going to stop until we achieve success. We know the American people support what we want to do. Over 70%, majority of Republicans, independents, overwhelmingly Democrats support raising the minimum wage. We have to get that. You know what? It's important to our women veterans, too. We owe them so much. And our veterans, period. Our veterans, period. So we want to give people hope, and they have to know. They have to know that there's something happening for them so that they can be a part of it. And that drumbeat across America, that echo chamber for change, is something that we, as I say, we're not stopping until it's done. We want to shorten the distance between what we think is inevitable, they think is inconceivable, to get the job done. And we can't do it without your help. And meetings such as this all over the country. But again, taking advantage. One advantage we have now is the social media, where this message can be amplified across the country. And just to hold public officials accountable when they hear the story about how it might affect their families and our country. And let me just say this one thing, because Senator Mitchell mentioned about the budget and the rest. Nothing brings more money to the treasury of the public sector, in our case, the federal government, than the education of the American people, and that starts with early childhood education. So to cut that is a false thing. So I think we see at every level women at work in public policy, but the driving force, the power of it all are the personal stories, and that's why I want us to join you all in again saluting Magali and Renetta for their story. Thank you all very much. Oh, I'm conducting it? Okay. Oh, the Q&A. I didn't know I was conducting it, but I'm happy to do so. And any hard questions, I'll defer to Hilda and to Judy, Secretary Solis and Congresswoman. Any questions? No? Okay. Any comments, any observations, any commitments to get the job done?
There's one
See back there, question. Oh, okay. All right. Well, yes, ma'am. Hilda?
There's one over there.
Judy.
Good morning. I'm Jumana Barakat with the Workforce Investment Board. What an honor it is to be among great leaders and women like yourself. I don't have a question. I have a comment. Is that, and it's not a promotion, but I didn't know I will have the chance to let all these women in the room know that on Wednesday at PCC, along with PCC Small Business Development Center and the City of Pasadena, we are holding a Women's Summit. And to honor your presence with us today, we have 20 scholarships to the summit to give away. So if you are a woman and interested in spending a day amongst other women who are successful, sharing their ideas, how to start a business, how to succeed in life, and how to become even a politician, and people who work on our behalf, please come to our table outside. I will be more than glad to give you a scholarship.
Wonderful. That's great. I think we had one here. Oh, who's doing the one here? Do we have a microphone here?
Thank you. Thank you all. This was just so inspiring. I'm Leslie Gersikoff. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Labor Committee Western Region. And we're working very closely with the Unite Here and the Raise LA campaign to raise wages. In Santa Monica, an ordinance was passed with the OTO project to have a $15.37 an hour minimum wage.
Very good.
And that's one of the more progressive. However, still in Santa Monica, the housekeepers at the DoubleTree are demanding respect on their job and the end of, we could call it wage theft to be nice. Mm-hmm. So I'm encouraging everybody here to also get involved with very local campaigns. If you want to just spend a half an hour at 7:30 in the morning in front of the DoubleTree, walking with women who are facing all of the issues that were discussed here today, it would be very appreciated, and it would resonate all the way up to Congress.
Thank you. And one of the parts of our campaign is also to make sure there's significant increase in the minimum wage for restaurant workers. We'd like it to be the same. I don't know if that's possible, but it certainly has to be much more than it is now. So thank you for that. Are they down there?
One here.
So we hear more questions. We will listen to what you have to say, and then at the end have
I
comments.
just wanted to say I'm with the American Association of University Women, and we have many of our members here today. And everything that we talked about today is on our agenda. We see you on the Hill. I know our people in the DC area make the trek up to the Hill all the time. And we're having our our state convention in LA about a month from today. Starts on the 11th. You are all welcome to come. And we hope to, engender support for many of the things that we talked about today.
Thank you. You know, the American Association of University Women, it has an agenda that's not just about university women. It's about low-income work. Their agenda is very much like what we're doing and then goes beyond. But you have been part of almost every event that we've had throughout the country, so thank you for your leadership.
Hi, my name is Trina Pasumbo. I'm a student, and I just wanted to ask a question about undocumented women. How are we able to succeed when all our odds are against us, when we're undocumented, when 2 million people are being deported and families are being separated? How are we able to get the education that we need to succeed, to have our dreams come true like Magali? What steps are you willing to take?
Well, we're fighting very hard to pass the immigration bill, and on Friday, we had a big meeting of all of the groups in LA. We meet regularly in Washington with the groups, but as we go around the country to hear from the organizations that are working for comprehensive immigration reform. Comprehensive immigration reform which stops deportations. And we do believe that some of the deportations can be stopped even before that bill is passed. But in our bill that we have, it's a bipartisan bill. We have nearly 200 co-sponsors of it. If it would put on the floor, it would pass immediately. We could then work together with the Senate to send a bill to the President. We must get this done. In fact, I said to the Speaker of the House, I would rather pass comprehensive immigration reform than win the election in November, because it is so transformative. It's so transformative for our country, and whether it's people who are undocumented or it is not. Now, what we're saying to the administration is, what the intent of Congress when we talked about approving something that said if somebody has committed a felony, then they cannot qualify this or that. That did not include any status, a felony because of your immigration status. But I want to defer to, we have two real champions on this subject. Judy, as I say, Congresswoman Chu, as I say, is the, I want to make my commitment to you, but I want her to tell you the lay of the land on it, because this is, as I say, this is about America. It's about individuals, but it's about America and how we have a different responsibility. Judy?
Well, we had such high hopes after the presidential election because over 70% of Latino and Asian votes went to President Obama, and I think it was in large part due to the desire for immigration reform. So we fought very, very hard this past year. We got a Senate bill passed, but now we're stuck at the House. We do have this bill, H.R. 15, of which I'm one of the 5 principal co-sponsors, but we have to get a vote on the floor.
We have the votes.
We have the votes. We have nearly 200 Democrats. We have about 30 Republicans who've said that they would vote for this bill. We need 218 to get this passed. So now we are starting on a drive to get this, what we call a discharge petition, but basically a we want the vote now petition started in Congress. And there is a Fast for Families bus tour. There are these fasters that are incredible, and they're going around this whole country, and they just left from LA a couple of weeks ago. Now they're going to end up in Washington, D.C. on April 9th. But this is the time to put pressure on Republicans to vote for this, but also basically for the Speaker to put this thing on the floor and give relief to the millions and millions of people here in this country that need it. So we hope you can join in this effort.
Great. I just want to say that we have the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor here. I can see our friends here. And I think that you can also help empower women by knowing that they have current rights, even if you're undocumented. Our governing laws, federal government, and it's already in statute and code, anybody that works in this country, they have a contractual relationship. And you have to receive the, at best, minimum wage and overtime. So a lot in our community, folks don't even know that currently on the books, we're not creating new laws. These laws have been in place for over 60, 70 years. And people have a right to ask for what they deserve, for equal pay for their work, and especially women and women immigrants. So we have enforcement tools available. We have people who speak different languages that can help interpret. And also for people to know that those students, for example, that fall under the DACA, the DREAM Act, that have applied for a permit to work also need to know that if they're being violated in terms of their workplace situation or whatever, they also have rights. And in addition, there are services that are available for many of those in that category right now. The DACA students that could also receive assistance for health care coverage here in our state. Our state is pretty liberal in terms of how we conduct ourselves. But it's important because why would you want to have your sick child or yourself having to go to school or work knowing that you have health care available but may not know where to go about it? So all these services are important. We need everyone to work with us together on all of that.
On the subject of immigration, this is an economic issue as well. If we pass the immigration bill, because obviously we believe that the constant reinvigoration of America is our newcomers coming to our country. This is who we are as a country. And when newcomers bring their hopes, their aspirations, their dreams for a better future for their children and their families, well, that's the American dream. And all these newcomers, when they come, make America more American. And that's how we treat the issue. On a practical side, from the standpoint of those who, shall we say, are not quite arrived there at that point, we're just saying on the practical side of it, if we pass this bill, over a period of time, it can save hundreds of billions of dollars. Immediately, it would inject nearly $100 billion into the economy. So there's economic reasons, and that's why President Obama put immigration reform in his budget, because it has a positive impact on the economy if we would pass it. So we're using every argument we can. Our values as who we are as a country, our respect for the dignity and worth of every person, our concern, of course, about the economy and how we, I don't want to say take advantage of, but enjoy the benefit of all of these newcomers, and they take advantage of the opportunities that are here. But we can't do it unless we get a vote, and we need a vote. And for one year ago, we agreed to a compromise bill that the House and the Democrats and the Republicans put together. We've been waiting for the Speaker to bring up a similar bill. And then I said to him, just bring up any bill. And then he said he was going to bring up his principles. He said, you'll like my principles. He brought up the principles. We like them, but his own caucus did not. So we need outside mobilization. I'll just say this. On all the subjects we've talked about, President Lincoln, I say this because his picture is in my office, and I always say, President Lincoln. President Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. He had some heavy lifting to do that he had to convince the public of. And we have to do this. And that's why I said, this is so transformative. We're talking today about survival for some people. We're talking about taking them to a level of success. But what we want to do is transformative. So we remove all doubt in anyone's mind that he or she can succeed if they work hard and play by rules, have a path that they've designed for themselves. So that transformation is good not only for that person, his or her family, but for America. And the most transformative thing we thought was the affordable health care, and it was. And it's fabulous. But the next thing we must do is immigration reform. We passed the DREAM Act in the House. You need 60 votes in the Senate. We couldn't get those 60 votes. But now we have to have the full package. So thank you for being who you are, an invigoration of America, and a person who loves the democratic process because you are fighting for improving the situation. I guess the time has come.
Thank you so much. Let's give everyone a big hand, and especially to Leader Pelosi. Yes.
I was remiss in my remarks. I just wanted to acknowledge the hardworking women staff behind these amazing women who helped make today possible. So I wanted to tip my hat to the staff.
I want to thank everyone for coming. If my janitor grandfather and my dishwasher father and my piecework sewing woman mother, when they took me to the United States 55 years ago as a non-English speaking child, if someone were to tell them that I would be standing here sharing this stage with these amazing, amazing women, I don't think they would believe it. But this is my American dream, and this is our American dream. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, President Covino, Leader Pelosi,
One more.
Chairwoman.
When women succeed,
America succeeds. Okay. Thank you for Congresswoman Chu and this amazing panel of women leaders. I invite you to stay if you wish, but there is the resource fair going on outside, and I will also invite press to stay so that you would also have an opportunity to do your interviews and your shots before everyone leaves. Thank you for being here. When women succeed, America succeeds. Thank you very much.